What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully, you guys have a good day so far. In today's video, we're going to be covering the Anomalous Titan event, which is the event for Embrys's 5-star soul. Now, Embrys is the champion that you get for progressing in the Chimera content. And I made a video about him yesterday and this event yesterday. Not going to lie, I was very, very excited for this event. I did have a day to reflect on this a little bit, and I have to say that after a day of reflection, I do feel like we do maybe need to be a little bit cautious, and it doesn't look as good as it seems. Now, what do I mean by all that? First, let's jump into this Titan event and see what we're working with here. So we got the 5 milestones. So we got the 5th milestone, grand prize, 1,500 points for Embrys here. There's going to be a total of 1,750 points in this entire Titan event, which means you are allowed to skip 250 points and still be able to get Embrys' 5-star soul. The mythical book is still here. We are missing the primal shard this time. The void shard also at an elevated rate here. Legendary book also seemingly to be elevated at 1,300 points. We are happy to see that the fusion token is at 1,000 points. Now, a lot of people seemed to be very, very excited about this. Now, this is worth a lot, especially if you are missing a lot of the previous fusions, or if you're missing a critical previous fusion, for example, like Wixwell, for example, Titus, for example, Newt, Fabian, anything like that. Those would probably be the top 4 that people would probably go for. If you guys are missing multiple of them, then yes, this fusion token is worth a lot. Keep in mind, though, that these fusion tokens would come with time, right? They would come with time. So I think the level of FOMO needs to be controlled a little bit, because it's not that you would never get this token ever again. It's just going to be a time. You're just going to have to find, another hybrid fusion, complete it, and then you're going to get another token. But getting the token here is definitely going to speed it up for you guys that really value some of those old fusions. Now, we do have the Immortal Soulstone here in the 4th tier milestone, the 3-star at the milestone 3. This is pretty standard stuff. 2 energy pots here definitely seems a little bit on the low side. We do have the gold chest here, which is interesting. I mean, you could get a void shard out of this, which is kind of, that would be a pretty high value, but you're probably going to get a 5-star epic ore. And then we move back down to the milestone 1, which is basically nothing. So at the very least, I think for Embrys, you should try to get at least the 1-star soul. The 1-star soul for Embrys, you're going to get a boatload of HP right out of the gate, and you're going to get a high value blessing. Like Lightning Cage at 1 star is very, very strong. So 1-star minimum investment. You don't need to pull in shards. You barely need to be playing the game. You're gonna get 100. You're gonna get this, 100 Titan points without any issues. Pick up the 1-star soul. Even the 3-star soul you can probably pick up without too much investment. Now, if you guys really want the fusion token here, keep in mind that both summoning events in total will give you a 700 points towards the entire Titan event, which means you technically can get this fusion token at 1,000 points without pulling or participating in a single summoning event. So you don't have to participate in the current Mavara's Heroes Path. You don't have to participate in next week's Champion Chase. And you guys can still get enough points to get the fusion token. So that's great news. But you definitely need to participate in at least, partially both of those events to get the 1,500 for Embrys' soul. Now, why is my hype for this event a little bit watered down, right? Why is it a little bit watered down? So first of all, if you're in the position where you have a 4-star Embrys already, I think I would probably sit this event out, sit on the sidelines. You don't necessarily need the 5-star for Embrys. He's a great champion, but he doesn't necessarily need accuracy. Accuracy helps him do more damage, but it also could make his A2 hit a little bit weaker. So basically, you want to ignore 50% of the target's defense. But in order to do that, Embrys' accuracy needs to be less than the target. If he has more accuracy, then he's going to be doing double damage, which deals less damage than the 50%. But accuracy is going to make him a little bit more, versatile, because his base form will be able to land decreased attack and fears and stuff. This ability, the Stone Skin Strip, doesn't require accuracy, which is amazing. So if you already have a 4-star for Embrys, maybe save the resources and skip his 5-star. Now there's further benefits for having the 5-star. For example, if you're using like Lightning Cage, for example, then you're going to get some additional percentage chance of preventing your buffs from getting stripped off, which is, of course, very good value. The other thing to be a little bit cautious about with this Embrys 5-star. So especially if you're on the fence with everything and committing resources to him and all that stuff, is that Embrys in the Mercurial meta is not particularly strong. He has single target hits. He hits once on his A1, and then he has a single target hit on his AOE attack. So this is in his damage form, right? So once you swap over, this ability only hits once, unless somebody's dead already. And then his big AoE only hits once. So against Mercurial, this is a bit of a problem. You guys might actually, notice that already. I've definitely noticed it, at least in my picks in Live Arena. I've been picking Embrys a little bit less. Although Embrys is very strong, and one of the big reasons why he's very strong is because of his block revive. Obviously, it's very crazy. The second reason why Embrys is a little bit suckier in today's Live Arena is because there's a ton of block damage stuff. There's a ton of unkillable stuff. Unkillable is actually the one that's a little bit harder to deal with for a more majority of the champions. But for example, he doesn't handle block damage. He doesn't handle unkillable. So his kit purely is a like on hit, big hit type of champion and single hitter, right? So he's not as good in today's Mercurial. And if you can imagine, 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, when all the champions, potentially are in more Mercurial gear, then perhaps we could see Embrys being, crept out of the meta, which kind of sucks, right? Because he's a free champ. We want him to be strong. We want him to be an option for players with limited roster pools. But that's something to consider if you really, really want his 5-star soul. If you really want to jack up your Embrys, you might not see, or you might not get the performance that you would be expecting from him in Arena because of Mercurial. Now, that's a bit of a negative for Embrys, but there's also a lot of positives. So I want to flip that around for you guys. I am generally still very positive about this event. And I'm still going for his 5-star soul because Embrys is one of my few mythicals and he's, one of my best damage dealers, etc., etc. Even if he's crept out of, being my first overall pick in Live Arena, for example, he's still a very, very powerful champion. And with the 5-star soul, it actually opens up a couple other options for him in PvE content, namely Phantom Shogun. It allows him to solo Phantom Shogun if you want to do that. And it makes sense for events like this that's currently ongoing, the Gear Ascension Tournament. So if you wanted to farm Phantom Shogun, you can, strap your, Embrys with 4 food and go into Phantom Shogun and then grind out this Gear Ascension Tournament while grinding out food. Now, once I get his 5-star, so I'll do a video on that because it does require a bit of a blessing. And I know the higher the blessing, the more consistent the run. So I'll make a video on that after I pick up the 5-star soul. But I think that's one way to use him, maximize, his 5-star soul blessing. The other way is that the 5-star soul is going to give him a boatload of stats. It's just going to make things a lot easier for you to hit stat requirements. For example, if you wanted to solo the Sand Devil with food, you guys can do that with a bit, pretty much the same kind of arena build. You guys can definitely solo the Sand Devil as well. But with the blessing, you guys can definitely do that a little bit easier with Embrys, especially with the bigger HP and all that. It's just going to keep him alive. So that's another way to maximize the use out of his 5-star soul. And frankly, if you're not a huge spender in the game, you probably don't have a lot of mythicals. So having a big star blessing on one of the few mythicals that you have, regardless of the meta, you're probably going to pick him a lot anyways because he's a mythical. He can withstand being locked out. He's a high priority threat because of his block revive. You're probably still going to want him to be the best that he can be with the 5-star soul. And the mythical soul is, relatively hard to get, right? So, mythicals have been in the game for 2.5 years. The blessing system has been in the game for, same amount of time. And I've only been able to get a 1-star soul for my own Embrys. So it's not a guarantee that you'll ever get a soul for your mythical champions. In this case, this mythical, everybody will get sometime in their career. It's just progression. You just have to do Chimera. Eventually, you'll get enough fragments to get Embrys. But you won't guarantee yourself a blessing for him, right? So in this case, you get a 5-star blessing. and that's going to give you a boatload of stats right away. So like I said, with the 1-star blessing, you're picking up 10,500 points. With the 5-star blessing, you're picking up 90 resistance, 90 accuracy, a bunch of crit damage, 45 crit damage here. So it's quite a bit, right? So I'm not saying that the 5-star soul is totally useless. I'm not saying that this event sucks or anything like that, but definitely my hype for it is a little bit lower than it was upon first read. When I first read it, I was like, oh, I'm so hyped. Embrys, I love Embrys. I use them a lot, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, definitely lowered my hype for him a little bit. Also, guys, if you guys were on the fence about committing resources towards this 5-star soul and Embrys or if you had any questions about it, there's also the consideration for potential future events. Obviously, who knows what's going to happen at the end of the Titan event. People are speculating that there's some kind of collab that's going to happen, but at this moment, obviously, we don't know anything. We're just speculating. There's always going to be events in raid. You're always going to be giving up something to get something else. There's always going to be opportunity cost involved in all that stuff. It's really up to you to assess your account. How often do you use Embrys? Is he a top pick for you? But yeah, just something to consider. And just some things I thought about, which I wish I didn't have to think about, but I thought about it. And instead of the event being like, yeah, slam dunk, 100% must do, it's probably like a 95% must do at this point. The fact that Mercurial's probably going to creep him out of the meta eventually at some point, perhaps, might be something of a consideration. But with this 5-star soul, he's probably still going to be the strongest nuker on most people's accounts. And the scarcity of these 5-star mythical souls definitely have some value as well. But there's also the fusion token, which, if you're interested, that's going to be pretty high value. But yeah, anyways, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. A little bit, of a cautionary, let's simmer down the hype a little bit type of video here. Bring our expectations down a little bit. Full disclosure, personally, I'm still going for him. He's still, top tier champion for me, even if my overall pick rate for him has gone down quite a bit this month since Mercurial came into the picture. But yeah, anyways, guys, thanks for watching until the end. Hopefully this video was informative and helpful for some of you guys. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Appreciate you guys watching until the end. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.